Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is a cold day outside. The greenhouse is just barely above freezing. So I thought today I'd stay warm and work in the plant room. We have got some even cooler weather coming in the next couple of days. Minus 21 degrees Celsius. That's getting down there pretty cold. I'll have the heat on in both greenhouses. That'll kind of keep them at a warmer temperature than the outside air. That should help the plants get through the winter a little better. Even in the plant room here, it's quite cool. It's only 15 degrees Celsius, and that's because it's cold and windy outside. When the sun comes out, the plant room usually heats up to like 30, 35 degrees Celsius, which is pretty nice. I've switched places. I moved my Ficus benjamina over here, and I've moved my Schefflera, my clump-style Schefflera, under the light here on the turntable. So it needs a lot of cleanup. Since I brought it in from outside, a lot of the leaves, the older leaves, have gone yellow. You can see some in there. There's some back in here. So a lot of leaves are falling off, and there's a lot of debris underneath the tree that needs cleaning up. So I'm going to come in there today, clean it all up. And I'll also be doing some pruning. If you look, it's getting quite large and unmanageable. There's shoots sticking up really high here that need pruning back, kind of balancing the vigor once again on the tree. Yeah, so a general cleanup work. It's really hard to water because you can't really get in here very well. All the foliage is hanging down, and so I'm going to do some cleanup work on it today, just to get it all back under control and ready to grow. Around this time of the year, kind of, late December, early January, it's always dark out. You don't get many sunny days. It's always cloudy and the days are still short. The sun is very low on the horizon. So you can see the plant room is quite dark, except for the areas that have lights on them. The plants survive, but they don't do really well in here. It's more of just a matter of keeping them alive until spring comes. That's all I can hope for. Sometimes they grow well, like under the lights here. They do fairly well, but not like they do outside. There's nothing, better than natural light on the trees. That's why I don't mind keeping it cool in the plant room over the winter, because the plants just kind of stay dormant. If I keep it cool, I don't have to do as much watering. I don't have insect problems. And yeah, the plants just kind of stay dormant until spring comes, which is still about 3 months away. I checked the playlist for this tree. The last time I did major work on this tree was September the 3rd of 2020. I totally defoliated it. I pruned all the branches back. And then they started growing in, and I took some nice photographs of the tree. I'll show you the photograph. So here's the tree today, and it needs repotting, but I've got to wait till it's vigorous. And after defoliation, it takes about a year before the vigor of the tree comes back. So it's growing really well now, and I think, when I put it out in spring, it's just going to take off once again, and that will be the time to repot it when it's really super vigorous and healthy. So today is just a cleanup work on it. I'm going to start with pruning because I've got a lot of yellow leaves and debris in there, but I just can't get to it because it's so congested and crowded. And it's really hard to water this tree, as I mentioned. You kind of have to get in there with a spray bottle underneath it. And there's no way you can get a watering can in there or even the bottle top watering system. It's hard to get in there. So I think this will really help, giving it a bit of a prune. Not defoliating it, just pruning it up, tidying it up. And that should be good for today. I'm going to start the pruning, but before I do, I have to get my tools. They're all outside in the greenhouse. All right, I've got my tools and I'm ready to start working away on the tree. So I'm going to start by pruning some of these long shoots off here. And I'm looking for leaves that are facing outwards, fanning out from the trees, and I'll prune back to those. So this one I'm going right back to here, taking that whole branch off. Like that. So you can see how large the internodes are, the space between the leaves on this branch. Quite large. There's another one here sticking up. I'll prune it back to here, taking the tip off that branch. So I'm kind of doing a profile pruning just to get everything brought back in. It's taking up a lot of space on the bench, this, which I don't mind. I don't mind, you know, it's a nice spreading bonsai, but I don't have a lot of space indoors here. And all this is going to be pruned back anyway, so might as well do it now. And I'm pruning, you know, quite conservative right now. I may come in later today and prune it back further once I can see more of the structure. I'm slowly getting the profile restored, pruning back the longer branches, making them more compact. You know, they just grow straight anyway, so you prune them back and then you get movement and taper in the branches. These are great trees for clip and grow bonsai. You can wire them, but the wiring is just sort of gentle bends on them. You can't get tight kind of movement to them. You can only do that with the clip and grow. So now you can see I've got some really tall leaves sticking out of the profile, like this one here. So they need to be pruned back also. So I'll come in, prune some of these longer leaves off, because I have to get light in here. The canopy is too dense at the moment. This back of the plant wasn't getting much light. It was against the wall. So it's a good thing I've got it out so I can kind of rotate it around, get some light to this area, restore its vigor in here. Yeah, it was getting a little sparse looking in that section. So I'm back out to the front of the tree. So the profile is much better now. It's not perfect, but it's better. At least it has some, you know, a bit of an umbrella shape to it, which is what I'm after. A lot of leaves falling off in here. So my next step, I want to remove anything hanging down. Like there's a lot of leaves hanging down that stop you looking in at the tree, and it stops you getting into water. So removing all these drooping leaves has a double benefit. The reason so many of these interior leaves die is that in the summertime, when you got the high light intensity, all the leaves that are growing in the shade still survive. But then when you bring it indoors and the light level is a lot lower, all those branches that were still surviving in the low light in the interior just don't get enough light, so they turn yellow and die off. So it's a good idea to thin the trees when they're indoors so all parts of the branches get light. You don't want, you know, all your interior branching dying off. So I'm still removing all these hanging leaves so I can get in at the tree more easily. These Scheffleras are good in low light though. It's tough to kill a Schefflera. Generally the only way to kill them is overwatering them. It's the first time I've been able to see in here for a long time. It's kind of nice to see what's going on with the branches and that. They fill in very quickly. Lots of aerial roots in here, which is kind of good. So this is the back of the planting now. There's a lot of debris in here that I need to clean out. Still a lot of leaves up in the canopy too. There's a look at the floor and all the clippings I have. There's a lot of leaves come off. Here's a look at the tree now. I'll shine the light in there so you can see the branches a little more. So you can see it's still too high. There's too much foliage on top. So I'm going to do some further thinning on it. I want, when I look down from the upper canopy here, looking down, I want to be able to see some of the branches. I want to maybe thin it by 25 to 50%. Here's a look underneath the tree. So you can really see that banyan styling with all the low spreading branches, the aerial roots. It really gives you the impression you're under a giant tropical rainforest tree. It's one of my favorite styles. Here's a view looking down at the canopy from above, and you can see how dense it is. You can't see anything through the canopy. Even if you move leaves out of the way, there's just more leaves underneath them. It's super dense. So I'm going to try and thin it out. And I'll start by removing any leaves that are growing in towards the center of the tree. So I keep my leaves that are fanning outwards and remove any that are growing in towards the interior. And that thins out, some of them, maybe 25% of the leaves. So I'll begin with that operation. I'll try and show you an example of this leaf pruning. So if this is my branch, you can see this leaf here fans outwards. This one's kind of straight, fans outwards a bit. This one's fine. But these two grow in towards the center of the tree, so they would be removed like that. And that thins that branch down, and it still flows out nicely from the center of the tree. So now I'll go in and look at each branch and prune any that are growing in towards the center. There's one here. Take that one out. And this will create holes in the canopy to let light down through the canopy. Now, the only time you wouldn't want to thin the canopy is if you are trying to develop aerial roots. When you have a really dense umbrella canopy, it traps humidity in there, and you get all these aerial roots growing, which is kind of nice. So I'm just taking one branch at a time, thinning out those inward-facing leaves. So it's not defoliation, it's just thinning. Oh, there's the sirens. Could be the start of the zombie apocalypse. In here, there's leaves fanning outwards, but they're crossing over top of another branch in this area. So I'm going to prune those crossing ones out because there's leaves pointing upwards here to give this branch more light then. So now you can see this branch is light and this branch is light. If you don't do this and a branch gets shaded out, it'll just die off. And that's a rule with any bonsai. If the branch isn't getting light, it'll just weaken and die. So you can see all the holes I'm opening up in the canopy, getting light to all these branch tips. Some of these parts of the canopy are just super dense. They just need thinning badly. And again, just with the ficuses, you don't want branches in the middle getting too long and then shadowing out the outer branches. You've got to kind of keep them all equally pruned so each branch gets light. If you get a branch that's quite long and it has a lot of leaves on it, you can reduce the number of leaves on the branch, taking away some of the older leaves or pruning the branch back more compact. So there's one here. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves at the tip. So I don't need all that many leaves. They're just shading out the branches beside it. So I'm reducing it to 2 leaves. Still lots of debris I'm pulling out of the canopy. Older leaves. Here's another case where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves. I can, in this case, prune it back, the branch, to an outward facing leaf. You can see as I thin the canopy, I'm getting a lot more light shining through the canopy onto the lower branches. And that, will promote back budding on these branches. Once they get light, you might get back buds, and that way you can keep your tree compact. So after today, I'll leave this tree under the UFO light, giving it, you know, good light to recover, start growing new branches. We'll spoil it. Well, that's starting to look quite nice. I'm kind of looking from underneath, seeing if there are any dark spots in the canopy, and it's looking pretty good. There is one dead stump in here. It's where I hard pruned a branch back long ago and it wasn't successful, so I'm going to get rid of that stump so it can heal over and be less noticeable. That's good. That'll heal nicely. Yeah, it's amazing. There's always new branches trying to grow from the old wood in here. Every year I get little new shoots coming out. As long as they get light, they'll grow. This is my favorite area of the tree over here. It's got all these branches that are kind of growing together. They kind of snake around each other, and it's getting very dense in that area. I really like it. Lots of aerial roots. It's a great tree to explore, looking at all the branches and that. It's a very interesting tree. I think I've got the canopy thinned quite nicely. I think I just got to clean up my debris down below here and then give it a good watering. So I'll pick out all these leaves in here. I can hardly wait till summer when I get this tree in the greenhouse and I get my misting system in place. I'll have all kinds of aerial roots growing, and I can pick and choose my best ones. They'll grow down the trunk and it'll look really, really good. Now, I don't want too many aerial roots that it obscures the trunk, but I do want to be able to grow more vertical ones coming off these low trunks. I think that'll look really good. And we'll get the tree repotted this summer. I was going to do it last summer, but the tree wasn't vigorous enough. After that branch and leaf pruning, it took a while to gain its vigor back, which is understandable. It is hard on the trees, defoliating them and hard pruning them back. But if your tree's nice and strong, it can take it. And I made sure this one was nice and strong before I did that operation. If you do it on a weak tree, you're asking for trouble. You're looking for trouble. You'll get it. All your weak branches will die off, and you might still have the tree live, but it may not look how you imagined it. Okay, so I think the next operation is the watering and misting. I had cleaned the floor up since the initial pruning, so all these leaves on the floor now are from the thinning of the canopy. Quite a bit taken off. I'm going to start the watering by misting the tree, and I'll mist it from underneath. So here I go. Spraying up into the canopy. And this is to get all those aerial roots moistened up, to keep them growing. Now I'll mist from above. And next, I'll give the tree a watering. So I'll come in with my bottle cap watering system. Give the tree a water from all sides. So it's much easier to water now that it's thinned out. I can even water from above here. like a tropical rain shower. So this water has a small amount of fertilizer in it too. So I'll let that soak in. Give it a couple more waterings. Give it a good thorough watering today. All right, I'll give it some more water now. And I'll let that soak in. I am all done the watering. Now the tree's looking good. I've never stood under a tree like this, but I can imagine this is the feeling you get. All those branches and aerial roots. It's pretty cool. It's like being there in miniature. A bit of a spa day for my Schefflera Banyan style bonsai. It's looking really good. I'm really looking forward to spring when it starts to grow with vigor once again. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.